Shall I go first, Dave, or?
It was about the same time, wasn't it? Because we used to go when we were really little. 89, wasn't it? Was
Yeah,
it Terry Cooper? That was the title winning season.
yeah. I remember going to St James Park um, when I was at secondary school, and when we first started to go, I went with a mate. It was just turgid to watch. It was awful. There was 2 or 3 thousand. We used to generally go in the cowshed, which obviously isn't there anymore. Um, and yeah, that would have been late 80s. So um, we were awful for a long time, fighting relegation, often finishing 17th, 18th, 19th in the league. And then, yeah, we had that fantastic season out of the blue where Terry Cooper was the manager. And yeah, I guess as a 14, 15-year-old boy, you're kind of in when you witness something like that. You know, I've been going for several seasons anyway, but to go through that season, I think we were unbeaten at home all year, certainly unbeaten in the league, possibly in the cups as well. I can remember a couple of cup games, one against Sunderland, another one against Norwich, and yeah, Rowbottom just being a goal machine, and Neville setting up all the goals. But yeah, for me, you know, you're in then once you've witnessed something like that on the big bank for many years after that as well. So
you used to go together.
Yeah, I think I must have. I was a bit because I'm younger than James. I'm two and a bit years younger. So I think he went with one of his mates, and then I think I started to go just as they started winning in that 1989 season. So yeah, and I think it was about 11 or 12. And it was great fun. It was weird because our dad, he's not with us anymore. He was an Argyle fan. And he was trying to indoctrinating us to watch Argyle, and we went and watched Plymouth Everton one in the cup, and that that was a good game and stuff. But we were like, nah, we want to be Exeter fans, so we ended up just being Exeter City fans instead of Argyle fans, which is that's always a better option.
And how did you get away with that then? How did you say to Dad, look, we're going to be Exeter fans?
I don't know. I suppose because he grew up in Plymouth, it was different. But then we were living just outside Exeter, so it was just easier for us to go to Exeter. We just used to get on the bus. It would be 20 minutes into the city, so it was just easier to go into Exeter, and he was okay.
No one was a Plymouth fan, where we were living. There were a lot of Torquay fans, but yeah, no one was a Plymouth fan. So.
And everything was okay.
Didn't even cross our mind to support Argyle.
No.
And when it came to Derby Day, was there some choice?
We had a great time. We went down to Plymouth. I think Exeter won 3-0 at home park. And I remember after the game, we were actually locked in because the Argyle fans were fuming. And I don't think we were able to leave for about an hour and a half after the game. I'm pretty sure that was in that. It would have been maybe the early 90s. You'll have to look it up, but it was an awesome game. One of my most memorable games was beating Argyle 3-0 at home park.
I think,
no, carry on, go on.
Yeah, I think it was a year when possibly Hodges got a late winner, or maybe it was.
Johnny Hodge, wasn't it?
So many years roll into one; it's difficult to remember the actual goal scorers at the time.
We'll talk about some more memories a bit later on, but I guess the question is, how did you both end up in Australia? And you're obviously in separate parts of Australia as well. You're probably 1,000 miles away at least.
Oh yeah, it's a 2-hour flight, 2,000 kilometers. So it takes 2 hours to fly. It's like flying from Exeter to Malaga, but it's Melbourne to Ballina or Gold Coast, really. So. Yeah, it's a bit of a trek, but I suppose in Australia, distance is not seen in the same way as it is in the UK. Whereas over here, 100 years is a long time. 100 kilometers or 100 miles, it's nothing. So I remember being at home and driving to Manchester and back and just staying overnight. People thought I was mad. I'm like, oh no, it's a piece of cake. 4 or 5 hours in the car, that's easy, So you just get used to distance. You look at it in a very different way. But I think you moved out here first, didn't you, James?
Yeah, I first came out in the late 90s, just on a working holiday visa, which at the time was really straightforward to apply for. I'm presuming it's exactly the same for British passport holders, but yeah, it was a working holiday visa, and yeah, I guess I ended up wanting to stay beyond that. I went back to England for probably 3 or 4 years after my visa lapsed, but then thought, nah, this is crazy. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to enjoy a bit of sunshine and better climate. So yeah, moved back to Australia permanently in 2003 and been here ever since.
And I moved out in 2008 permanently. So as I said, I was living in Ireland. I moved to Ireland in 99 and stayed in Ireland for nearly 10 years. And then I came out on a working holiday visa and thought the same as James. I think people of a certain generation, which is sort of late Gen X's, early millennials, used to watch Neighbours and Home and Away on TV, and it sort of instilled that Australian lifestyle, the sun, and it sort of subliminally captured a lot of people to that amazing lifestyle. And I think a lot of people of our age group moved out here on the back of watching those shows. And I've spoken to a lot of people out here, and a lot of people sort of have that experience of watching those shows growing up, and moving out here as a result.
I guess it's not as easy as some of the the global Grecians that live in Spain that could pop back every now and then. How often have you been back, and how many times have you watched Exeter since you moved away?
Yeah, well,
you were back recently, weren't you, James?
Too often, but I actually was back in Exeter in March, just gone. So I went to a couple of games. Fortunately, there were a couple of home games whilst I was there. So I was at the Burton game, which was a 1-0 victory. And before that, we played Bolton at home. So I was at that game as well. So that was looking a bit miserable after the first 45 minutes. But thanks to Sonny Cox, he turned it around for me. And yeah, had a couple of good home games there. It was great. So I was on the Big Bank for the Bolton game, just reminiscing about old times with a mate that I used to go there with 30 years ago. And then in the, I think it's what's called the Nevada stand now for, the Burton game. Yeah.
I haven't been back for a while, unfortunately. And when I did come back, it was summer, so I wasn't able to see a game. I think the most hype, it would have been a while ago now, was when I was living in Ireland, was the playoff game against Cambridge. I flew to London and watched that. That was a great game as well. So, but yeah, that's a long time ago.
James, I guess SJP has changed so much since you remember it growing up as a lad, and since when you were back.
Yeah, significantly. For the better. Yeah. I always loved being on the Big Bank though as a teenager. Watching games from that spot was fantastic. I'd have been watching games there before the roof was on, that's for sure. But the cowshed was a phenomenal atmosphere as well. I really enjoyed being in there. That was really when I first started watching, where most of the noise was coming from was the cowshed, and there wasn't, really too much noise coming from any other part of the ground, a bit from the Big Bank. But the cowshed was where to be as a teenager. It was fantastic. Yeah. Actually, on a side note here, I went to Exeter College and did my A-levels in PE at the time when Taggy was there working as a lecturer, and he was my PE lecturer at the time when I was sort of 18, 19. So it was pretty funny to see, or interesting to read that journey of what he's gone through and how he's been involved.
If I see him later, I'll see if he remembers.
Give him a nudge.
I'm just wondering, how do the pair of you consume matches? Because I guess 3 o'clock kickoffs is what, 1, 2 in the morning over there?
Yeah.
It's a 9 hour time difference at the moment, and then it's worse when it turns to 11 when the clocks change, which is even worse. But yeah, I think we rely on your posting the highlights and the YouTube games. That's how I consume it.
Yeah. Oh, depending on what game and how awake I'm feeling at the time, I'll often do subscribe to the game and watch some games. But yeah, it really does depend on, what I've been up to on the Saturday or what I've got planned for the weekend. Because midnight games, it sounds ridiculous, are actually okay. But when the clocks change and you're looking at a 2 a.m. start, then that's a bit tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you wake up in the morning and sort of just cross your fingers before you check the score on your phone?
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you wake up in the middle of the night, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning, you press refresh and you can see. And there's a couple of games, the recent towards the end of the season where we were losing and then we won. We refresh and all of a sudden it went 1-0 to 2-1. That's always pleasant when it goes our way.
I think when we put out the call for this Global Grecians, we had a lot of people in Australia come forward to, who wants to chat to us. I'm wondering, have you bumped into any Exeter City fans where since you've been over there and met up, and also have you got someone you can talk to City about other than each other?
No City fans, but there's a lot of expats over here. So yeah, you can always chat to other supporters of other clubs. A good mate of mine is a Stockport County fan, so they're obviously having a pretty good year at the moment, and he's cockahoo about that. Yeah, I know Tranmere Rover fan. There's lots of expats in Australia, so there's plenty of people to talk football about, but not necessarily Exeter fans. I don't know any Exeter fans other than my brother.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there is someone else in Melbourne that did message us, so maybe we can.
Okay, maybe we should set up a Melbourne Grecians club.
Yes,
a Melbourne Grecians something.
We could put you in touch, and
yeah, that's right.
Someone else in Tweed Heads as well. I think that's New South Wales.
Yeah, that's not too far from me.
There you go. So you can set up that one.
Yeah.
Have a few Aussie supporters groups. Look, you spoke about the 89-90 season and your memories of that. Are there any other memories that you can recall that you were there for and are pretty special to you?
Oh, I think it was the one where I went when I flew over to Wembley, where I was living in Dublin at the time. So I was still in exile, I suppose. And then I went and watched the playoff against Cambridge. That was pretty cool. That was a really good atmosphere.
And well worth the
absolutely
trip.
Well worth the trip. And I think my mum and stepdad came up from Devon and met me at Wembley, and yeah, it was very memorable. Still remember that very well to this day.
James, what about you?
Well, I guess I can only go on my most recent experience. The atmosphere in the second half in that Burton game was just brilliant. There was sort of backs against the wall, 1-0 up at half time, and then losing Zach Jules in the tunnel for whatever it was, a red card. And then, yeah, just the atmosphere in the second half was just phenomenal with the fans just really getting behind the team. And so, yeah, that's probably, in terms of experiences, one of the highlights for me at the moment, because it's been such a long time since I've experienced going to a game. That was, great. Loved it. Knew what I was missing. The following weekend, I went to a Chiefs game, and the atmosphere just wasn't a patch on it. So,
yeah. Just finally, then, I mean, do you get to watch much football in Australia? Do you watch the A-League? Is there a team you follow out there, or is it just not quite the same?
It's not quite the same. Yeah.
With different football codes. The different football codes over here. Melbourne is very AFL, and then NRL as well, which is rugby league. And that really dominates everything. I mean, the MCG, I'm only about 5 kilometers from the MCG. 110,000 people. So it's mass. AFL is massive in Melbourne anyway.
Yeah, the participation levels for football are, much bigger than any other sport, but it just doesn't get the coverage because just the AFL and the rugby league and cricket just dominate on television and media stream. So that's where the interest is. So yeah, don't really get into the A League here. You can easily get Premier League over here. You can watch any Premier League game and subscribe to that quite easily. At least you can then watch it at your leisure. You don't necessarily have to record it. You just get up the next day and watch highlights or a full game or whatever. So
and the Premier League gets quite a lot of coverage just on the normal ABC News, which is the BBC equivalent. They would always feature like the top games in the Premier League. So, but the lower league, and sometimes some of the cup games. But yeah, a lot of Australians have Premier League teams they follow as well.
You'd probably get a mention on the news if there was an FA Cup tie in which a lower leagues team beat a Premier League team. That's potentially something that may appear on the news, but yeah, you're relying on subscriptions really if you want to watch any decent football.
Amazing.
Yeah, like I follow,